Hello guys, and welcome to another farm video here on the channel. So today I have got a tree farm to show you. It is a 4-type tree farm, and I call it the modest 4-type tree farm because the rates aren't the fastest going around, so you can definitely get faster tree farms out there. This one's more of a sort of like standard speed, automated, fully automated sort of farm. So it's like in the middle of sort of farms you'd expect to get. So that's why I call it the modest 4-type tree farm. The types of wood you can get, as you saw from the time lapse, is oak, birch, spruce, and jungle. It's able to handle all of them. It returns the sapling return rate is high enough for each one, and you even get some extra over, so you can actually start, farming those saplings as well. It also acts as an apple farm and a stick farm because, you get sticks from the leaves and you also get apples from the oak leaves. This farm was designed in 1.16. I'm going to quickly talk about the rates of this particular farm. We'll go from the lowest to the highest. Oak, you get 7.2k an hour, which is not too bad. It's even higher with birch at 8.7k. Next, we have the spruce, which is the next highest at 9.3k. Jungle is, of course, the highest one because it's the one that goes the largest, so you get more logs on average. And this is at 10.5k, and that's really, really, really good. Here we've got all the storage, so got apples in there. You've got the jungle saplings, spruce saplings. I mean, that's all full at the moment because I've tested that quite a lot. Birches as well, and then oak as well should be fairly full. Yep, and then sticks are completely full. Out of all the saplings, you get more of these ones than you do jungle. Jungle is a lot harder to obtain. To turn the farm on, all you do is press this button. Pull this lever. You pull this lever. This light should come on telling you the farm's on. I mean, if you can't tell the farm's on, then just make sure your sound's on because you can actually hear it. Now, if we choose a sapling, so not going to choose oak because you need to have this activated for oak, otherwise the farm will break. And I really do mean this, do not place any oak saplings when this light's not on. This light has to be on, otherwise it will not work, but we can do all the others. So I'm going to go with spruce. Now what you do is you stand here, aim at this observer here, just hold down the right click button, and it will then start farming it for you. And you just gotta keep holding down, and you can just wait until you run out of bone meal. So if you stand here, then you'll get the items dispensed back to you from this dropper. And if any items you don't pick up will get picked up by these hoppers, and it goes into the storage. And this is how you get the saplings to come back. And that's also why I have all these hoppers. The hoppers are there to pick up the items. Now, you do get a few excess items just sort of lying here, but you get more than enough coming back to you anyway, so this here isn't a problem, so I wouldn't worry about it. So yeah, so now I'll actually show you how it works with the oak. So if you pull this lever, this fly machine should activate, pushing this thing down. Now, this fly machine is the same as Mango's in this universal tree farm, and it's for the exact same reason. It's to limit the height of the oak trees growing, because if you don't limit the height, you're going to get fancy oak trees, and they have branches, and they're really annoying to deal with, and it will also break the farm, so don't do that. And then when you want to finish, like with the previous one, you just stop, and it will just, come into this configuration. But yeah, anyway, to turn it back off, so if you want to get rid of the oak again, you want to do a different type, then you remove that. Get that, and then to turn it off, just flick the lever, everything will turn off, and that's it. That's all you gotta do. I'm now going to talk a bit about the history of this particular farm. The actual farm itself is the 3rd version. That's Mark 3, whatever number you want to designate it, version 3. And it's actually not the fastest version, but there's a good reason for it, and I'll explain that in a minute. I'm going to also show you the first tree farm I designed, which then influenced my decisions in how to make the 4-type one. So I made a 2-type one for oak and birch. I will do a video on it, but I need to make some changes to make it sure that it matches up with the updated sort of wiring that I've used here. You can see at the back. Whereas the wiring over here is a different version, as you can probably sort of tell from over here. The first sort of tree farm that I designed was this modest 2-type tree farm. So you can see that it's pretty much very similar in that sort of overall sort of aesthetic and sort of design philosophy. You've got the TNT blast chamber here with this sort of wall of oak and birch in this case, activated from wall of pistons here that pushes this entire block forward. And here is just basically a smaller version of that particular chamber over there. This will only allow oak, birch, and technically jungle to grow. But the problem is you're limiting the height constantly. So birch won't go to the higher amount that it does over in the actual 4-type one. Oak will grow pretty much the same way as over there, but it also allows jungle to grow. But you don't get enough saplings back because you have to crush 20 jungle leaves on average to get a sapling back. Whereas with all the other types of trees, you can crush. So jungle's really annoying. With jungle ones, you have to go larger, like hence over there. to actually get those ones to work. So the first of all type one pretty much is just this with an extension, which is essentially larger, and the wiring is slightly different to updated to make sure it works with like 11 tall pistons rather than 12. Now, sorry, rather than is it 5 or 6? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, making sure it updates with that. Lead pushers all the same. So it's basically a double piston extender here, which then pushes the wall in close enough such that these this sort of wall of signs is in line with the logs there, such that it crushes all the leaves up to that point. And the reason we use signs is so that the items actually fall down here and they don't get sort of glitch through the blocks there. And the reason we have this redstone blocks here is such that it allows this technically a triple piston extender. So we've got double pistons here, so that acts as a double piston extender. This third one gets powered by this block being pushed in forward there, and this is the same in this version and that version over there. The main idea is we use a triple piston extender to push the logs forward, and that's so we have this free volume here to allow the trees to grow. So spruce requires a 2x2 volume to grow, whereas all the others don't really. Sorry, not 2x2 volume. What I'm on about? It's not a 2x2 volume. It's a it's a 5x5 volume. So birch requires a not birch, spruce. Spruce requires a 5x5 volume, and all the others don't need that. This sort of flying machine is slightly too tall. It's actually 1 block or 2 blocks too high, whereas over here it's in the location it should be. Now, weirdly, with this farm, it never failed on any jungle sort of tree that was grown, whereas over there it started failing with some jungle trees because it grew 1 block too tall, which meant that it exceeded the push limit here because we've got a piston underneath this dirt block. If the tree grows to 12, then it's trying to push 13 blocks and it can't do that. So then the farm basically stops and you've got to fix it by just removing 1 block, and it's a pain, and it's technically not an AFKable farm. But for some reason it didn't fail here. It was really weird. It was fine here in all my tests, but it was never it failed quite often with the other one. The wiring with this one is all redstone. So the reason it's all redstone is so I could work things out. This is very overconfigured. And there's a particular sort of tree detection system over under here, which is even more complicated, which is unnecessary, which I'll go through in a minute. But yeah, like this was basically the first version where it was just made to work, and it works, and the overall logic is sort of there. And then I would take this overall logic and extend it to the other ones. So the main things that change with each version is just this wiring here and the detector system down there. So it's mainly the redstone that changes. If we have a look at the rates, it's 5.3k oak, so I've improved it significantly with the third version. Same for the birch, it's 7.5k here, so it's improved it significantly. Weirdly, that was more than the spruce. There was less spruce in this version, which was really odd, but that's what the average came out to. And then jungle was always pretty good at 9.6k, but now at 10.5, it's even better. The way you would work this one is that you would aim at that block there, and it would grow the tree. This was the first one I did, so I thought, okay, let's try and improve this. And the reason I wanted to try and improve it is because I realised this detector system here was way too overcomplicated, and I came up with a new, better way of doing it, which is when I get to this version. Now, this version has slightly different redstone to accommodate the fact that I changed the detector system as well. So if we have a quick look at the detector system, it's basically thinner, and you can't really see it. It's quite there's quite a lot of compactness here. And I also moved the bone meal storage over here. I even added in this one a version where you could detect when the bone meal in these hoppers, the sort of the first hoppers that go into the actual farm itself, emptied. And I didn't do it in the version over there because I just thought it was a slightly bit more complicated, and also the farm doesn't run for as long because there's this bone meal here that never pretty much that just stays here and never gets used. So you could just run it until you're completely empty, and then you just have to refill it. It's not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to cause any problems. It shouldn't do anyway. But the problem is when this does turn off, it sometimes did cause the farm to break. So that's why I got rid of it in the next version. But I did include this here, and I moved the storage here because it made more sense. This was a lot faster. This is technically faster than that one over there. We have even more jungle logs at 11k. 9.3k spruce, I think that's the same as that one over there. I can't remember. 9.2k birch, which is definitely better than that one. And then slightly better at 7.8k. But the problem with this farm is it doesn't work in survival because I was an idiot when I designed it and didn't test it properly in survival. I only tested it in creative. Now remember, with creative and survival, the distance which you can break blocks and place blocks is slightly different. With creative, it's, I believe, 6 blocks, whereas in survival it's 5. Where you AFK, you have to shift here, which is another problem with this farm. This farm was really annoying because you have to shift and then place because there's a dispenser here. You can't see the dirt block there. The reason for that is so that it didn't grow the trees too quickly, and it was just it grows them just fast enough for the redstone to still work and all the other stuff. But you have to shift click and aim at this one here and place there. But the same distance, this is the same distance as in the first version over there. And I assumed it would work, but it doesn't because you're not aiming at the dirt block anymore. You're aiming slightly further away at that one, and that's too far away. So in creative, you can see that you might just be able to see that I'm slightly highlighting it. So I'll go there, highlighting that one. Now I'm highlighting that one. If I go into survival mode, I can highlight this one, but I cannot highlight that one, and you cannot place anything. I only realised this when I built this up on the Eternal SMP. So this is the version I built of the Eternal SMP. You will see that in a future video, not in the next episode at the time of recording. It will be in episode 6. I built this up, and then I went to record this video for the first time, and it didn't work. Do not build this up. This is here for reminder to myself that I am no good, I am an idiot. I'm going to quickly show you the detector system. This was the first version. So in that Mark 1 version over there, this is the detector system. So as you can see, it's just overly complicated, and the only reason it's overly complicated is because this piston here is down, whereas in all the others, the piston's up. So with Java Edition Redstone, essentially what happens is you get this weird property called quasi-connectivity, which is where pistons get powered when they're technically not meant to. At the moment, we've got this piston here, it's got a block above it, and up here we have an air block, which is, if I place a block there, will get powered by this repeater. Now if I put the block there, nothing happens. But the weird thing is, due to quasi-connectivity, this block, despite the fact that this block is powered and is one block above the piston thinks it's being powered, but it doesn't know it's being powered, but it doesn't know it's powered yet. So if I then update it with this note block, it then extends. That's essentially how the tree detector works. You have this thing being powered when a tree grows here, i.e. the log, like that. When it grows, it will then extend and activate the entire system. Because note blocks will send out block updates, it allows the piston to update. That's why I use the note block. Now, if I was to place an observer here, I've now got an observer card going, which means that this note block is constantly going true and false. So if you look in the left-hand corner at the text I have using the mini HUD mod, you can see that it's going powered on and off all the time, which means that this will send out block updates to the piston whenever something grows. So if I then put the block there, you see the entire system activates. Basically, what you've got to do is when this bit extends, you then got to depower it. So that's why this gets moved down, so that this doesn't power the repeater, which means that doesn't get powered anymore, which means the piston doesn't get powered anymore, so it extends back up. I hope you got that. And then what you need to do is you need to push this piston to here, which will then push the block up, and that will then allow the so if I was to have so basically what happens is that you'll have the oak log up here now, and then what you got to do is you've got to bring the dirt block back down so you can grow the next one. And the way you do that is you remove this redstone, because now this piston's extended upwards, you can't actually move it because extended pistons are removable. So you then push it, you then get moving this out of the way, which is what the sticky piston's here. And then what you do is you have this piston push everything back in, so you get this back there, and then you push the redstone back in, and then it's back to the normal configuration. I hope you got that. It's not really important because this is not used in the farm, but I'm just doing it so you know how I design things. That entire, when it actually starts going, it's quite quick. The thing that's slow about this is, the actual activation, deactivation of it all. It is a bit slow, and it's also too complicated. And I just assumed that all you have to do to actually power this with quasi-connectivity is that the piston has to be facing down. It does not have to be facing down, it can be facing up, which is why we have this system over here. Now, the way this one works is it's more elegant. The entire redstone itself isn't just this slice. The dispensers are here just so I knew where the dispensers would be. But it's a lot more elegant, and essentially it uses the same sort of idea. You've got the piston here, gets powered by this observer powering this repeater, which means when the repeater powers the block, it then strongly powers it, which means it can actually power the piston here. That'll extend up because the note block here is getting updated by this observer here. Now the reason there's an iron block in between is so that this observer is not being strongly powered to power the piston. It just sends out the block updates using the fact that this is getting turned on and off. That's really it. And then you don't need that, but I like it being there, so I keep it there. And yeah, and then you just have this observer code basically going into this note block, which then sends out the signal. So if I go ahead and actually activate this one, so you can hear the note block is being powered at the moment, but it's not a problem because when the logs get pushed this way, so the whole idea is the pistons will be above here, they'll push it this way. You don't hear it because there's a block above the note block, and when that happens, you don't hear it, so it won't be a problem. Now, with this one, it's pretty much instant. So if I place the block here, There you go. Instant. It pretty much pushed it up instantly. Whereas with this one, we have to wait a fair amount for it to get pushed. So this significantly increases the speed, which is why the first one's considerably slower than this one. That was the next iteration, and that's what's used here. And this system here is essentially this, just without the note blocker there, and it's got a repeater here instead of the observer, and the observer's now here instead of there. And this does the same thing. Now, the reason that there's a single bit of redstone dust here, which, I kind of wanted to make this dustless, but I couldn't in the end just because of the way that this farm is configured. This orientation got changed around. So here, the pistons were going to be out here, coming from this way, so they'll be going in this direction. With this one, the pistons are now pushing from this direction, going out this way, which meant that if we rotate this around, the note block's here. But this notebook's being powered by an observer, which means that the pistons that are directly above here get powered. And that's a problem. So I then make it redstone so that they don't get powered. Now I'm going to talk about the blast chamber quickly because it's, well, I don't know whether it's a blast chamber or not. It will go with blast chamber. It's not really a blast chamber. It's just TNT blowing up blocks, blowing up a wall of blocks. It's the most basic way to collect the items. Now you can do this farm by setting up to another, a more sophisticated TNT blast chambers such as the Mango one or the cubic meter ones. I will link those in the description if you want to take a look at them. I don't want to build a TNT blast chamber on Eternal, so I came up with my own little thing, which is why we've got the the TNT here, TNT duper here, and then walls of pistons to get the items here. When this TNT duper activates, it activates on the pull, which means that the TNT will drop down here, and then after a certain amount of delay, this will then open and release it, and it'll blow up roughly around this height, which is enough to blow up the logs here, and then it'll blow up the logs here as well. These logs will come out here, and then when it gets to here, it will push forward, and the TNT will then move forward. So let's do that. Here we've got the TNT powered, and then now, boom. This particular sort of time circuit here, and the duper itself, not the duper itself, but the rest of it, the timing and all that other stuff. That is from ilmango's cobblestone generator, 120k cobblestone generator. I will link it in the description, so because that's where I got the particular time delay circuit from. The scaffolding edition is mine, and the TNT duper is not mine, but it's not the same as ilmango's, the one he used. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I will link it in the description now of the reference I took it from. But this is not too complicated. Just essentially smart pistons pushing in the logs, into here, which then get blown up and then collected by these water streams into some storage system there. I've also got a version on the world here, on the world download, where you haven't got this blast chamber, so you can connect up to any blast chamber you want. So here it hasn't even got the wall that sort of pushes it this way. It will just grow trees all the way out here. But be careful when you are using this, if you decide to do it like this. Make sure that you don't exceed the push limit. Now onto the actual sort of farm itself. So you've got the on circuit here, and you've got the the oak sampling circuit. So the oak sampling bit is really simple. It just powers this redstone, which then powers the piston, which extends this all the way up. Now here on the original one, it will then power this sort of circuit here, which just will extend these two pistons here. So if I actually go ahead and I actually got to be careful here, aren't I? Let's place this here. So here it will power these two pistons, which means that these are now immovable and you can't push anything against them. This allows these pistons here to not push this iron block forward when you use the oak version. That's something to bear in mind. When you have this version, just make sure you have a system in place such that you will never push this forward against the other log. Sorry, so here, so the two pistons here will be extended over there, so that these pistons here can't push this forward. So just make sure that you actually enable that when you do it yourself. So you activate the fly machine this way. So just it's a slime ball piston tower. I'm using honey because again, Eternal SMP, I have more honey than I do slime. So that's why I've used more slime used more honey than slime. Then it activates a simple redstone line, which then powers this obsidian block, which then activates the trapdoor, which then activates the flying machine. And this flying machine is the same in the Mango's in his universal tree farm. I will link that in the description. I mean, all these farms were influenced by Ilmango's universal tree farm because that's the only tree farm that I ever made. Talk about influences. That pretty much gets us onto the leaf crushers. The leaf crushers themselves, the actual walls, they are influenced by him, by Ilmango's universal tree farm. They're essentially the same. I think this is slightly different because I think his work by using leaf detection rather than block detection over there, like I have used. But yeah, the main reason we have the only reason we have these redstone blocks is to power, as I've already said, the pistons here in the center for the triple piston extender. That's the only reason we have them. We don't need them on both sides. We only need one, but I include both on both sides because symmetry, and I like symmetry. Therefore, it looks better on the eye, in my opinion. When you do turn this on, it will then power, these lines here, and it just activates the entire thing. So here we've got an activation for the detector system, as well as I think some of the item collection for the saplings. Yes, it does, because there's droppers here that push into the hoppers. Yeah, and it also activates this bit here, which then powers the actual dispensers itself. Now you notice here we've got an activated railroad line. The reason we have this is so that we can turn the dispensers off when we don't want to grow a tree. So in between growths, this is so fast that you can grow another tree whilst these are still activated, and there's a chance that you'll break the farm. So we need to make sure that we don't do that. This activate rail here will be turned on by this, this redstone block. But yeah, and then we've got all these hoppers here to collect the saplings. We've got hoppers. I've got a hopper below this repeater as well. So underneath we have some droppers as well, which will push back into the hoppers, and those are activated by the central clock in the detector system. And yeah, that's really it. And the reason we have repeaters here, and there's hoppers below those as well, the reason we have repeaters is so that we can power so that's the dispenser there. These are droppers. The droppers are powered, which then powers the dispensers here, so that's why I have to use repeaters. And the only important detail is the fact that all the bone meal's here. So when you want to do your bone meal storage, you could also have a bone meal farm hooked up to it, but the bone meal storage is here. And I mean, where is it up to? It's probably fairly empty. There we go, it's up to here. So on that one, it's up to there. It's probably less on these ones. Yeah, it's getting into the other ones now for the others. But yeah, you can fill this up with bone meal, and this should last you for probably maybe a few hours, 8 hours maybe, at least. I don't know, don't quote me on that, I've not actually tested that, but yeah, anyway, this is quite a lot of bone meal, so you get enough logs that way. You see here that the redstone lines are slightly different because it's only minimal redstone. The redstone is just used for the powering of the actual blocks itself. The rest of the activations and the timings are all done by observers, note blocks, and some repeaters. And essentially, we've got two separate circuits. So with those ones over there, which you can't see now, you had activation and reactivation sort of interconnected. Whereas here, this is essentially the activation, and this is the deactivation. And by that I mean activation being, you push all the pistons out. So essentially, we just have one tick pulses for each piston at the correct timings. And then the deactivation is where you pull all these blocks back, including the leaf, the leaf walls as well, the leaf brushes even. And then we have this bit here, the sort of power finally these pistons here. And the reason we're using reserves like this is because because I'm using redstone, I can't have combining sort of lines, and you have alternating observers and iron blocks so that you don't power this twice accidentally. So yeah, I think that's it for all the details about the farm itself. I will also link in the description a video about activation on the basics of tree farming, because that was the video I used as a reference point for when I was actually designing my first tree farms. But yes, if there's any questions about how this farm works and all the other stuff, please let me know. Oh, I have just realised. Did I explain why the flower pots are there? Did I explain why the flower pots are there? I don't think I did. Right, yeah. So sorry. Before I finish, flower pots. So the flower pots are here because it stops the spruce leaves from growing there. That's it. That's all they're there for. Anyway, as I was saying, check out activation video for the basics of tree farming. He even goes into detail how to do sort of 2x2 farms as well for, like, say, spruce and jungle. I'm going to tackle that in the future as well, so subscribe if you would like to, look forward to seeing that. Subscribe if you enjoyed the video in general and you like to see more farm videos of different technical sort of things. I also am on the Eternal SMP and I make videos there. I have a bit of a Let's Play series going on that, and I focus mainly on technical sort of how to survive it technically, so doing survival Minecraft in a technical way. If you are interested in that, please check that out. I will link in the description the Discord channel for that particular SMP. There you can talk to us on Discord and ask us questions or find the latest content there, all that sort of thing. So I would highly recommend checking it out. If you did like the video, please give it a like. Like I said, already said, subscribe if you'd like to see more, and I shall see you next time. Bye bye.